On one level, compost is very practical. It's making something useful out of something that is not immediately useful. But on another level, I'm very interested in it because it's also essentially turning death back into life. It's taking something that in a lot of the current world is sent to be out of sight, out of mind, taken to landfills, taken into waste disposal systems that most of us don't see. And instead, it's taking responsibility for what happens to that waste on our own and making it into something that is then life-giving again.
Around here. We're gonna take the entire outer layer of this pile off.
My name's Connor Stedman. I'm head faculty for the Omega Institute's Ecological Literacy Immersion Program.
So seaweed is usually around a 20-to-1 ratio.
During our month-long course, one of the many projects we undertake with students is building a thermophilic compost pile. And it uses the heat generated by decomposition to accelerate the process through which food waste is broken down. And in this video, we're going to walk you through the steps of how to do this yourself at your own home or your own business. When you're looking for a location for your compost pile, it's best for the pile to be in shade, because if the pile dries out from too much direct sun, it will slow down the decomposition process. Two of the main ingredients in a thermophilic compost pile are carbon-rich material, such as leaves or straw, and nitrogen-rich material, such as your food waste or coffee grounds.
Oh, coffee grounds, our favorite. So now we want to spread a bit.
If you're using straw as your carbon-rich material, the pile will decompose more quickly and more fully if you chop the straw into fine pieces first, rather than using it whole. That's because the chopped straw has significantly more surface area for bacteria and fungi to decompose it compared to the whole straw, which has more volume and less surface area. If you don't have enough food waste, or if you want to diversify what's in your pile, you can add other nitrogen-rich materials to the pile in those nitrogen layers. This could include green vegetation cut from the area around your pile, weeds from your garden. It could even include muck from a nearby lake or swamp or other wetland.
Whoa.
Wow, you heard that little whoosh pocket?
You have to have a lot of nitrogen mixed in with that in order for it actually to break down in a short amount of time. This nice pile of horse manure.
How thick?
Not too thick. The green layers are thinner than the brown layers.
In order to reach the right temperatures for thermophilic decomposition, your pile needs to be at least 3 foot by 3 foot square at its base. And then you'll start layering first carbon-rich material and then nitrogen-rich material on top of that.
Yeah, and thicker, more?
Each layer needs to be watered as you lay it down so that there's an even moisture throughout the pile. Otherwise, some parts of the pile will dry out sooner than others and the decomposition will slow down. You should water each layer enough that if you squeeze that layer, a few drops of water should come out.
And the last straw, that's right.
The pile should be as high ultimately as it is wide at the base. So somewhere between a 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot cube and a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot cube. When the pile is finished, you want to cover it with a tarp so that the moisture level is maintained even if the weather is dry, and also so it doesn't get too wet if it rains.
Whoa. Oh yeah, some heat.
After the pile is finished and tarped, wait 3 days and then come back and check on it.
What's going on down there?
It's great to bring a compost or meat thermometer with you to stick in the pile and see how much the temperature's gone up.
Wow.
If you've built the pile as we've described, it should be in that 130 to 160 degree Fahrenheit range. And now it's time to turn the pile. Because if you don't turn the pile, the microorganisms that are breaking down your food waste will be running out of oxygen and water shortly, and the decomposition process will slow down or stop. So what we need to do is switch the material that's on the outside and the material that's on the inside. We are unwrapping the pile. So we're taking the layer on top and the sides and making that into the new nucleus of the pile, and then we're taking the center out and stacking that over it. And again, each layer that goes on, we're watering it to get that a few drops come out when you squeeze it consistency. After the initial turning, come back to the pile every other day and flip it again in the same way. These thermophilic piles, if they're built correctly and have enough nitrogen and are watered well and moisture levels are maintained, can produce finished compost in under 3 weeks' time. That finished compost will look similar to earthworm castings. It'll be dark brown in color, it will smell earthy, and it will feel like a well wrung out sponge when you squeeze it. This is something that we can and need to do on a very large scale in our food system, and it's also something where millions of people's small actions in their own backyards and gardens and schools and institutions can add up to something very significant.
It's a gorgeous compost pile.